Hey everybody, welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome to week number 4. Wow, congratulations to all of you who have made it this far. I hope that you will stay in touch. LinkedIn is a wonderful place, by the way, to just stay connected to, faculty, other students, other professionals. Especially IT, information technology, and information security, cyber and cloud, whatever field you are in, LinkedIn is a great place to be. All right, so I wanted to say congratulations to all of you, but I also want to get right into what we have on the on the list for week 4, our to-do list. All right, so first of all, I want to start out just as normal, quick announcements. And then we'll get right into week number 3 review. Just a quick review of quiz number 3. I think it was a combination of 2 different quizzes with the Security Plus, but we'll talk about that in a second. And then we'll get right into week number 4. Our new material is compliance and operations. And then we'll talk about the homework and set you free to go finish this term with success. All right, looking forward to seeing you close it out strong. Okay. So, as always, check out FS1, okay, for lots of full sale announcements, events, all that good stuff. One quick note about this particular week, especially for week 4. Week 4 is not like any other week. There will not be any due dates on Monday, okay? There will not be any extensions after Sunday, okay, 11:59 p.m. at night. Sunday night is your last chance to turn in anything at all right? So one of the main reasons why I want to emphasize this is because, it's the end of the term. I have deadlines as a faculty member. I have grading deadlines. I have to turn in a list every month. And so by having you turn your homework in on time by Sunday midnight, I can also reach my deadline. So thank you for your professionalism with that. If you haven't already, hopefully you've already started looking at the homework for week 4, because if not, you are already behind, because there's so much that goes into your week 4 presentation. You have to prepare for it. You have to, students like to rehearse and do their best and get the best score. So yeah, hopefully today is Thursday, so hopefully you are already kind of skimming what's required for that. All right. Again, no late policy for week number 4. No extension. All right. After Sunday midnight, no more room for turning in assignments like previous weeks. All right. So let's talk about week number 3 and review what we had to do. So last week was all about network security. Lots of good stuff. We talked about baby monitors and the OSI model and how to use that as a guide. Cryptography, we talked about that in relation to the cloud. And so, yeah, you're still here. You managed to get this far. I'm, again, definitely looking for Course Director Award candidates this week. Some students start out really, really strong and then they kind of drop off. So I'm looking for students who have maintained professionalism throughout all 4 weeks. All right. So keep up the good work. You've been doing a wonderful job. Keep up what you're doing. Just, push through this last little bit and we'll be at the finish line. Hopefully you enjoyed everything that we did in week 3. We had some discussions on hacker wars and risky business, different videos and podcasts that you were able to listen to. We did some great labs, right, on encryption, multi-cloud, and then PGP, SSL. Wonderful, wonderful practice for you to get familiar with some of those concepts. And then we had the quizzes as well. All right, so homework for last week. One of the quizzes was on chapter 19, which was identity and access services. All right, and so you had about 10 questions. I want to just take a minute and reflect and review some of those answers and talk about, just quickly run through them for anybody who might not be sure what the right answers were. Okay, so question number one. Quiz 3.9. You are, you are working with a development group on a new web application. Yay, fun, fun. That will be hosted in the cloud. They need single sign-on capability to exchange authentication and authorization data between multiple security domains, and they prefer working with XML, which is, yeah, one of those languages you would learn if you're into web applications, right? So what would you suggest they use? We got Secure ID, we got Radius, we got PAP, and we got SAML. All right, so what do you think? Just based on reading chapter 19. All right, so it should be SAML, right? That's the right answer. All right, and let's go back to question number 2. All right, question number 2. Which of the following is an open protocol that allows secure token-based authentication and authorization from web, desktop, and mobile applications, and is used by companies such as Google and Microsoft to permit users to share information about their accounts with third-party applications? That's a long question. And so just looking at the choices, we have Radius, we have SAML, right? We have OAuth, and we have TKIP. All right, so the correct answer that you should have chosen is C, OAuth. All right, that would fit the description of what this long question was trying to ask. All right, so question number 3. Which of the following is a service designed to enable single sign-on and federated identity-based authentication and authorization across networks? So we have quite a few choices. The answer should be the first one, the very first one. All right, Shibboleth. All right. Let's go ahead and get to number 4. Which of the following is a true statement about the NTLM protocol? All right. So based on chapter 19, reading it, okay, the answer should have been C. It uses an encrypted challenge response protocol to authenticate a user, okay? If you're not sure what that is all about, make sure you check out chapter 19. All right, so number 5, your IT group is reworking their user authentication and authorization capabilities. They need something that can be used to control access to objects as well as handle user authentication and authorization. Which of the following protocols would you suggest they use? LDAP, MS-CHAP, PAP, or TACACS? And your answer should be LDAP, okay? So A is the correct answer. All right, question number 6. OpenID Connect allows for which of the following? We got A, identity can be confirmed with a single UDP packet. We got trusted IP addresses can be used to mitigate brute force attacks. We got a third party can authenticate your users for you using accounts the users already have. And then lastly, we have symmetric keys can be shared across unsecure networks. Your answer should be C, okay? A third party can authenticate your users. All right, question number 7. Which of the following statements regarding TACACS is true? And your answer here should be C, all right? Communications between a user, typically a PC, and the client are subject to compromise as communications are usually not encrypted, all right? C is your answer. Number 8, your development team needs an authentication solution that supports authentication across stateless platforms. They want you to explain how other applications use Facebook or Google logins for authentication. In your explanation, which of the following concepts which you definitely need to mention? You're the expert. What do you think you need to mention? So definitely B, okay? Secure tokens. You definitely want to mention that. All right, which of the following protocols uses a key distribution center and can securely pass a symmetric key over an insecure network? So based on what you read, it should be Kerberos, right? Kerberos, A. All right, now question number 10. A colleague has been tasked to update the authentication protocols for a very old window-based application running on a standalone system. All right, it's still using Landman and running on XP, Windows XP. Wow, that's old. The colleague would prefer to keep using something from Microsoft, but she can't upgrade the OS past Windows 7 during this effort. Which of the following would you suggest that she use? And you should suggest to her that she uses NTLM. All right, NTLM is the answer. All right, so we had a second quiz on chapter 26, which was all about cryptographic concepts. You had another 10 questions on quiz number 3.17. Question 1 for this quiz says, what makes a digitally signed message different from an encrypted message? All right, so what makes it different? Well, it should be B. A digitally signed message has encrypted protections for integrity and non-repudiation, which an encrypted message lacks. All right, so know the difference. Should be B. All right, question number 2. What does assault do? Well, we learned about this in what, weeks 1 and 2, maybe a little bit in 3 as well. So yeah, which question? This should be easy, right? It provides additional entropy. So if you didn't know what entropy meant, then you would look that up, right? But it makes it more secure, right? So your answer is A. All right. Okay, so in developing a system with a logon requirement, you need to design the system to store passwords to ensure that the passwords being stored do not divulge secrets. Which of the following is the best solution? Should be A. All right, so we just kind of talked about SALT, right? But that's the answer for this one, right? We're making it harder to figure out. All right. Okay. What does Diffie-Hellman allow you to do? All right. So based on reading chapter 26, what does Diffie-Hellman allow you to do? And your answer should be exchange keys in band. All right. What does ECC work well on? Why does ECC work well on lower power devices? Well, your answer here should be C. Less computational power is needed for a given key strength. All right. And then question 6, given a large quantity of data in the form of a streaming video file, all right, you know how big those can get, what is the best type of encryption method to protect the content from unauthorized live viewing? So in this case, you should go with Stream Cipher. All right, that's going to help you protect the content from unauthorized viewing. All right, if you need to ensure authentication, confidentiality, and non-repudiation when sending sales quotes, which method best achieves the objective? Just based on your research, it should be D, digital signatures. All right, digital signatures. And 8, question 8, why is the random number used in computing why is the random number used in computing called a pseudo-random number? Well, let's see what our options are. I'm going to go with C. All right, algorithms cannot create truly random numbers. Yeah, so C would be the answer. All right, what is the best way, if any, to get the plain text from a hash value? All right, what is the best way to get plain text from a hash value? A is your answer. You cannot get plain text out of a hash value. What kind of cryptography makes key management less of a concern? Hmm. You should know the difference between asymmetric and symmetric by now. So the answer is B, symmetric. All right. And then that's it. That was it for the quizzes for week 3. Let's get into week 4 material. It's a little shorter this week than other weeks, and I would say not just shorter, but the depending on who you are and what field you want to go into when it comes to information security. This particular The material for this week is less exciting because we're going to be talking about business operations and compliance and how that can be affected if you are working as an information security specialist or a cybersecurity specialist, et cetera, et cetera. All right, so let's talk about risk calculation. It's huge, it's a huge deal in business, okay? So, especially when you're working with an IT company or you are working in a IT department for a company. All right. So risk calculation for business. What is it? Well, it usually business experts in this field, they go with a formula that says risk equals the probability of loss multiplied by the amount of loss. Okay. And so if you're not into formulas and you haven't studied, haven't had a business class, then this might not, you know, make sense right now. But basically, what that means is you're going to take the probability of loss and multiply it by the amount of money that's going to be lost. Okay, so probability can range, right? Just depends on what the situation is. If it's a disaster, a hurricane, natural disaster, that's going to be different from theft. If hardware, software is stolen, right? Building fires, mass shootings happening, uh, you know, plane hits the building, whatever, right? Mergers, acquisitions, those are all different risks that can happen. What's the probability of each one? It's different. What's the loss, the damages? We don't know. But this is something you should be able to talk about in business, okay, in a IT department, all right, as a information security specialist. All right, so it's important to understand how to communicate and how to use the risk language and terminology. All right, so you want to be aware at least of the terminology so you can start to speak it and really talk it when you're in that environment. All right, so types of risk. There are 2 types of risk. There's qualitative risk and then there's quantitative risk. So as you can see on the screen, qualitative is more, general, identifying the threats, how likely are they to happen in general, and then what's the potential impact if they do happen. All right, so that's a lot of analysis going on. The other kind of analysis for risk is quantitative. We can put a number to it. All right, we can really start to narrow down, okay, what what are the chances of this thing actually happening based on a number, quantifying the data using costs and time numbers, right? It makes it more real, more tangible, right? Okay, so just keep that in mind as we go through the rest of the material for risk. All right, so risk calculation, again, is super important for you as an aspiring professional in this field. You want to research these terms as much as possible. On FSO, you'll get a lot of juicy information around these terms and how to use them in the real world. They're super important. You don't have to know them all by heart, but it's good to at least generally, if you're going to go into the business side of information security, you really do want to understand the cost to mitigate and single loss expectancy and recovery point objective. You want to know these terms and be able to use them intellectually. All right. Okay, third-party data sharing. Wow, that happens a lot, right? Every day, every single day, we are sharing our data some way, somehow, whether you like it or not. You are giving somebody permission by signing a contract, whether it's terms and conditions to an app or terms and conditions to a video game, you are always giving permission for a third party to take your data and use it. All right. So, and so when I say third party, the company that's giving you the service for free, they are not third party. Okay. They're the, that's like you and the business interacting, right? So you and Google gives you a free service, but the third party is the person that Google sells your information to. All right, so look at this quote at the bottom. If the service is free, okay, if it's free to use, that means that you and your data are the product. All right, so that money that you're not paying, it's being paid somewhere else. So you are the product, and your data is the product, and it's getting sold somewhere else. All right. So just keep that in mind, that you're always signing a contract when you're dealing with your phone, your mobile devices, et cetera, et cetera. So online service and business agreements, again, I won't read through all of these, but it's really, really helpful if you are going to go into the business side of information security, that you understand what an end user license agreement is, right? Software. What are the terms and conditions of you using a particular application? What is the service level agreement if you are working with a vendor who is going to provide services to your IT department? What did they promise to do? Is it on paper? Are they following it? All that good stuff, right? So there's more, all the way down to backups and sharing. These are two things that really should be covered in all of these types of business agreements. Memorandum of understanding, service of work, master service agreement. These are all types of agreements that companies use to make sure that their IT department is covered in the way that they're carrying out business and the way they're using their data. All right. So definitely research this, be aware of this, because it's super important. And, just to go along with the whole third-party data sharing, GDPR, you'll hear about this on FSO, some of the videos that are being, the research videos that you're going to review and complete. General Data Protection Regulation is a European Union guideline that was established in 2018. And it cost Google $57 million for not properly disclosing how their data was collected across devices that were used by European citizens, right? People who live in Europe. All right, so if you're a United States citizen, this didn't apply to you. But the key thing here is to know that there are similar rules that are trickling down to the United States. So, for example, a company has to be accountable for how they use your data in California. A California Consumer Privacy Act, CCPA, was established in 2018. All right, so the same year that this General Data Protection Regulation came out, California also came out with one. All right, so they've added protection pretty much to make sure that their citizens, wherever that particular citizen lives, they are protected by how their data can be used and whether that person has a right to be forgotten. Like if you want your data forgotten on Facebook, for example, Google, for example. This is one of those things that's happening in the real world. So how does this impact security? Well, it changes how you need to think about the data that you're dealing with as a professional in whatever company you go to work for. It changes how you need to deal with that data, specifically for those particular customers. European customers are different from United States customers, right? So you might need a lawyer for legal assistance in that, in your department. Go to your legal department in that company. I'm sorry. Go to your legal department and try to get some understanding of the regulations, the possible liabilities, understanding that from an IT and information security perspective can be super valuable in saving your company some money, right? For each instance. $57 million is nothing to sneeze at. I'm sure Google could afford it, but I'm sure they would prefer not to pay it as well. All right, so control types. How do we control and monitor and limit access to how things are happening in our business environments when it comes to operations and compliance, right? So how do we make sure things stay compliant? How do we make sure our general business is successful, stays successful, stays open? Well, there's multiple ways that you can control what happens in your business environment. You got technical, which we've been talking about for the last 3-4 weeks, right? All the technical hashing and salting and firewalls, these are all things, patch, protect, and harden. These are all technical ways that we can control what happens to our data in our business environment. Administrative, there's rules, right? There's rules that we follow in a business environment. There's detective, there's physical cameras, there's electronic alerts that can happen when something is going wrong with the system or with our business environment. All right, compensating, make sure you have backups just in case something happens. Deterrence, making sure there's no theft happening. We make sure we have lights, we make sure we have cameras to make sure thieves don't come in and steal our hardware while our doors are wide open for anybody to come in, especially on a campus environment. And then we have preventative as well. Preventative is like patching up your software updates. That kind of goes, that can be technical or physical. So yeah, that's just yet another way to control, monitor, and limit access to the data that we deal with in our business environments. Okay, policies and procedures. So another business concept you need to understand as an employee, if you've never been an employee in an information technology department or information security department, you need to be aware of some of the rules that other employees are asked to follow, including you, right? We're all asked to, to follow the acceptable use rule, policy, procedure. Okay, so that basically means if they give you some hardware or they give you some software, you're using it for business activity only. If you have access to a copy machine, you're using it for business activity only. If you're using, whatever devices, whatever is provided to you as you work in that business environment should be used for business activity only, not personal activity. Nothing personal, including the phones, right? You don't want to be making long distance phone calls to your grandma. You know what I'm saying? Use your cell phone. All that good stuff. So privacy. No privacy. There is no privacy when you use company assets. All right. So you sign something as an employee saying that you agree to all of these policies and procedures, but we're just walking through them so that you're familiar with it, just in general. Okay. So when you sign on to work for a company, you're agreeing to the security policies and procedures. Not sharing your password, not giving access to applications that giving someone else in another department access to an application that they don't need, right? Mandatory vacations, that allows for cross-training, and it also makes sure that more than one person knows how to manage a particular system. You don't want one person in charge and then something happens to that person and the company doesn't know what to do because nobody's around who knows. You don't want one person being the king of the castle. There should be at least 2 to 3 kings of the castle when it comes to managing an application or a network or all that good stuff, right? So least privilege is all about need to know basis. Don't give out more access than is necessary, especially if you're in the IT department. Don't give somebody, administrative rights when all they need is just basic user, general user type read, write, maybe not even write, right? Just read permission. Okay, regulations. So when you think of regulations, you should think of the government. You should think of the laws that have been put in place around data security. And you'll get a chance to look at this as part of lab number 7. All right, so HIPAA stands for Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act. It's been in place since 1966. It's all about protecting the health information of a person. All right, so you can't just make somebody tell you what their medical or physical state is or what pre-existing conditions they have. You can't make somebody tell you that by law. All right. And then students usually deal with this with, especially brand new students. When my kids went to college, I dealt with it, just making sure, hey, I want access to my students' grades just in case anything goes wrong and I need to, help them along. I would like to know their progress. Okay. SOX or SOX, great for, a law that protects investors and fraudulent accounting activities by corporations. PCI, payment card industry. So these are all regulations and around data security that you should be aware of. Okay, not just as a student, but as an aspiring professional. Whether you decide to work for a university, or you decide to work for Google, or you decide to work for the hospital down the road, you need to be aware of these regulations as an IT security, or IT or information security specialist. All right, standards and organizations. So we have already talked about NIST, which is the National Institute of Standards and Technology, but you definitely want to keep, I would say, take some time to research at least one of these on the list, because it'll help you in communicating what standards your company should be following. If you are advising the IT department on what to follow, NIST is a great one to start with for cybersecurity and understanding the framework for how things should be done in the company. All right, the others are just as important as well, but you can definitely start with NIST and get quite a few resources under your belt when it comes to talking through how an organization should handle their cybersecurity. So you got to identify, right, as the first step. You want to identify the risk. You want to identify what assets do we have already, how are we managing that, all that good stuff. You got protection, you got detection, responding, recover. Okay, so these are all things that you need to consider as a cybersecurity specialist or information security specialist, right? You don't have to do this alone. There are resources and standards organizations out there who have already walked through this before. So learn from what already exists. Forensics. So it doesn't sound forensics. You think of a crime unit on TV, a crime series that you watch, and you usually don't see a lot of movies around this uh, where they're talking forensics. But it's a big deal. It's a big deal. I'm sure crime units use, especially your social media when they're trying to track down a criminal. They're definitely going to Google that person. They're definitely going to use data online to try and um, find the culprit, so to speak. So forensics is definitely a big part of information security. And how does it affect the security of information and data? Well, there are different processes that we put in place in the real world that help us track activity that's going on with our systems. Okay, so for example, change management. Change management is where you put in a request to change something on an existing system. All right, so as you're, whether you're the network person or the application developer, you might need to make a change with that application. You might need to tweak something. Well, if that tweak is going to possibly bring the system down or create a vulnerability to the system, then there's safety in change management. So you submit to your department, hey, I want to make this change. Here's the day I want to make the change. Here's how long I think the outage should be while I make the change. And here is the result. Here's the benefit of the change. All right. So those are just a few of the items you might need to submit to your management before they approve and say, okay, yeah, you can make this change. After they've taken the time to really assess whether it's worth it and whether it's feasible and whether it's doable, all that good stuff. Do they have the right hardware in place? Do they have the right software in place for that to be successful? Right, so that is one of the things that can be used when it comes to debugging as well. If something goes wrong, you can look at your change management system and say, hey, pull a report on what changes were made last night. That might explain why the whole campus is shut down. That might explain why our whole hospital applications are not, our interfaces are not working. doctors aren't able to get the information they need. Why is that happening? Who made a change last night, in the last week, or whatever? All right, so incident response plan, classification of data, metrics, having performance analysis of the data, physical security. These are all things that can be used when it comes to securing and recovering from any kind of damage, all right, that is done from an operations and compliance standpoint. Remember, our focus this week is operations and compliance. How can we know the risk up front, but also if something does happen, how do we recover? Well, we can use forensics to help recover from a particular damaging event. All right, and that's pretty much it for this week. We're going to start talking about the homework now. You have quite a bit to do this week. You don't have as much as last week, but you do have that week 4 presentation. And hopefully, you've started thinking about the topic. You're already trying to make an outline of what's going to be required for you to talk through that particular topic. You got to do some research. You got to answer some questions. I think there's quite a few questions. Actually, there's only 4 things you need to address for the presentation, but there is a lab where you're going to be answering a good chunk of questions. So if you can tie in your presentation to something that you're really interested in, it will go much faster. But if you pick something you're not really interested in, then you're gonna you're gonna be stressed. It's gonna be work anyway, but you might as well pick something that you enjoy. All right. So the first lab is lab 7. Lab 7. All right. This is where you're going to be looking into cloud consensus initiative review. All right. So you'll download some documents, you read through them. Really take your time with it, because I know it's not easy to always read, especially when you see a lot of data, right? A lot of information. It takes discipline to do that. All right, so then you're going to have 28 questions to answer, all right? And you do your best to use complete sentences. You'll get a better grade if you use complete sentences, good grammar, good punctuation. Cite your references if you had to use something other than the Cloud Security Alliance Consensus Assessment Initiative and the other documents. And then you're going to upload a Microsoft document as your final deliverable. All right? And that's pretty much it for lab number 7. Quiz number 4.10 is all about risk management and business impact analysis. All right, so this is chapter 22 based on the 501 Security Plus version. All right, chapter 22. It might be a different chapter if you're using version 601 of the Security Plus manual. All right, so check out that quiz, do the research, and then discussion for you to upload some of your prep. Okay, so if you're not comfortable speaking, this is a big deal, because in the industry, in the IT industry, IT specialists don't always have a reputation for being able to communicate very well. So this is your chance to practice talking about the concepts that you love or that you're interested in out loud. Okay, technical information is not always easy to explain to other people, and so you're getting that practice. Don't think of this as busy work. This is absolutely the thing that you need as an aspiring professional. Okay, knowing how to talk, knowing how to write in a professional manner is super important, especially if you're going to go into the business side of IT. And even if you don't, just being in a department meeting requires that you talk and explain what you did on your project. Okay. So keep in mind that you're going to watch this video. You're going to answer some questions about, speech and talking and speaking. And then you're going to turn that in. That's going to help prepare you for getting comfortable with speaking out loud if you're not already. Okay, I do encourage you, as you're thinking about your presentation, to read your presentation out loud to someone else before presenting it on video. It really does help. Even if you're just reading it and your family's, your kids are running around playing, just read it out loud, because sometimes you hearing yourself say things can make a huge difference in how you deliver the final presentation. And then last but not least, this is where you actually upload your video. Okay, it's going to be a 10-minute recorded presentation. And then you're going to just kind of summarize, the overview of your issue that you picked, the topic, right? Why is it important? Why is the topic that you picked important to cloud security? Uh, what controls should a particular company or entity or organization consider, right, when they're dealing with your particular topic? And then what are some of the risks to the organization? Just based on your research, okay? Remember to cite your references so we know what you're talking about. But this is 14% of your grade, so this is nothing to snuff at. It's the difference between getting an A or a B or a B and a C. It can really drop your grade if you don't do a job that's up to par. All right? And then your comprehensive final quiz is just, the last quiz that you have to do, which is 4.13. All right? So that's 25 questions. That's probably the longest. Yeah, that is the longest quiz you've had since we've started this class. So take that seriously as well. That's 10% of your grade. That's another grade difference, grade letter difference. All right? So good luck to everybody on your finals. I want to encourage and emphasize you to use good old time management. It is really the key. Trust me, I'm not, and by now you know that as a student, right? You know the time management is the key. So remember that there are no extensions, okay? I'm sorry, I won't be able to extend any of the assignments, okay? I really need everybody to think ahead, plan ahead, make it happen, push through this last week, and you'll be happy you did. All right. Again, I have deadlines. We all have to use personal time management as professionals. All right. And this is your chance to practice that. All right. Um, and we mentioned this already, so I won't repeat. But just keep in mind, if you ask, this is what I'm going to say. Unfortunately, I can't give you an extension. All right, so you know how to reach me if you have any questions about the presentation, or how to make something easier. Let me know. I'm willing to answer any questions that you have coming up on this last week of class. All right, I wish you much success. I'm so happy you made it this far, and I look forward to seeing all of your creativity, all of your wonderful topics that you're going to share by video. And yeah, have fun with it. All right, have fun with your topic. You might be able to use that video as part of your resume in the future. Okay, so never underestimate the power of the work that you're doing in this class. All right, so take care, everybody. I'm going to sign off in about 5 seconds, and I will see you on FSO. Bye, everybody.